Nothing has done a lot to make their Headphones 1 stand out. They've got 40mm custom dynamic nickel-plated drivers, comfy PU cushions that offer pretty consistent mounting across a variety of head shapes, strong rated battery life, and what's this? A return to physical buttons instead of touch controls? My goodness, have you ever got my attention there? They even worked with Kef, a renowned audio brand, on the tuning of the headphones. It's just too bad that Kef is mostly known for speakers, and as it turns out from our labs testing, which was done by none other than DMS, that's unfortunately the one thing that they kinda got wrong here. But it can be fixed. So why don't we take a closer look? Ooh, I like this carrying case. It's thin, so we can already tell that they fold flat. And in terms of included accessories, we get a kabla. Wow! Oh, but what about second kabla? One 3.5mm cable, and then a simple Type-C to Type-C USB 2 cable. Unfortunately, this is just a 3-pole, so you can't use the mic over the cable, which is sort of a downer. But the good news is that if you were gonna plug in a cable, you could just plug in the C cable and just use them wirelessly because they do work while you are charging them. Now let's take a look. Ooh, I like the feel of this as well. Very stylish, very, very nothing. Oh, these are kinda old school cool. I do like. You've got that kinda square, COS looking kind of vibe to them, and yet with what appears to be some kind of like, and is this polycarbonate? We don't know. I'm getting the shrug, but boy, does it ever look like it. At any rate, it's very clear and, at least to my fingernails, reasonably scratch resistant. What a flipping vibe. And you know what? To their credit, in spite of the fact that we've got like a blasted anodized aluminum finish on all of this and all of this, they're not unreasonably heavy. They also aren't nearly as light as Nothing advertises them at. We tested on 2 separate scales and found that they weighed about 60 grams more than Nothing claims. But if you wanna compare to something like, you know, the AirPods Max or something like that, then this is downright reasonable. And speaking of comparison to the AirPods Max, one of the things that we noticed that Nothing did really well is the adjustment mechanism here. That's really nice. Smooth, basically infinite adjustment this way. And the way that they're managing the clamping pressure with this hinge here resulted in very consistent mounting across our various setups. And I gotta say, that is not bad considering that they're not coming all the way down and putting pressure from the outside with a fork style mount like you would see with a traditional headphone. It's kind of hard for you guys to see, but like I've got a really good seal back there. The noise isolation is pretty solid, and they have active noise cancellation as well, though it should be noted that there is a significant impact on battery life from using it. They rate it at 80 hours if you are not using ANC, and about 35 once you've got it switched on, though that's obviously still well more than you could listen to music in a single day, that's for sure. They have the usual suite of features for their ANC, so they do offer a transparency mode as well as AI-assisted situational noise suppression, whatever. We found that overall it was pretty good ANC, but didn't perform as well with wind interference. Let's have a look at the interface though, because this is where I think Nothing is gonna be grabbing a lot of people's attention. No swipes or gestures. Man, I still remember the first touch-controlled headphones from Parrot, of all people. I told them, guys, I don't know if this is gonna catch on. And I was wrong, but maybe now I'm right. We've got a single button here. This by default is bound to your voice assistant, if I recall correctly, but can be rebound depending on you want from within the Nothing X app. We've got a roller here with a bit of a rubberized texture on it that actually kind of reminds me of an old school ball mouse. This is used for volume adjustment and, oh, it's got a little click. If you press and hold that, you can toggle between the transparency and less opacity modes. And then we've got a paddle here that can be used to advance the track, reverse the track, or if you hold it, fast forward and vice versa. At the bottom, power switch, USB-C for charging, as well as our 3.5mm jack. Oh, hey, I can I can actually count the noise canceling mics here. It looks like a total of 3 per side on the outside, and then I've gotta assume there's at least 1 inside. Oh, I've also got what looks like a proximity sensor in there. So they should be able to tell if you have them on your ears or if you are just wearing them stylishly around your neck. Looking so cool. Ignore from the chin up and from the collarbone down. Cool? The pads were a strong point for us, using a nice squishy PU foam that conforms well to your head and rebounds very gently. And we found that there was a little bit more than average depth from the point where it contacts your head to the point where your ears, if you have wider ears, tend to sit against the inside of headphones. They also cushioned this space, which is a definite plus for me. I hate it when like a hard piece of plastic is sitting right up against my earlobes. Ooh, ooh, that's cool. Ooh, that's cool. Okay. When you pull them out wider, it's much harder to slip. So when there's no tension on it, it moves easily. And then when your head's in it, you can see, I can force it, but it takes way more force. That's pretty cool. Okay, good job, nothing on that. Of course, this is all for nothing if they don't sound good. Let's go ahead and give them a listen, shall we? After this quick segue to our sponsor.
Thanks to Wolfbox for sponsoring this video. Their MF100 really blows. Just like it's supposed to, got 'em. A tremendous amount of power. They measured a max output of 185 miles per hour for airspeed and 70 CFM for air volume. And the use cases, they're endless. Cleaning out your PC and keyboard, check. Here's one interesting application, drying off your car after a wash. Weighing in at about ½ pound and packed with 6,000 milliamp hour battery, it's portable, it charges quickly, and can run for a good while. So check it out using our links in the description, and for a limited time, save big during their Prime Day sale.
Right away, I can feel the ANC kick in, which it's not by any means. It's not the worst sort of pressure feeling that I've ever felt, but I'm definitely aware of it a little bit on these ones. I'd say it's on the better side. Look at that. How awesome is that? It's a little bit hidden away, but there's a dedicated pairing button. I flipping love it, because I hate having to look up the manual every time I want to pair a pair of headphones. One device found, boom, connect, done. Love to see it. That's a cool sound effect when it switches to transparency mode. Not the most natural sounding hearing of my own voice in transparency mode. This is very last gen. Like it kind of sounds like I'm coming from inside of my skull. But what about when you guys talk?
How does it sound when we talk? Testing 1, 2.
You guys sound great and very natural. It's only my own voice that sounds like it's my own personal Darth Vader talking inside my skull. I really don't care about head tracking at all, but there you go. There's an indicator that shows the direction my head is facing. I will turn that off now. Cool. I'm just gonna try them on their own first, without the ANC. Based on what I've seen so far from the frequency response curve, I will not need the bass enhancement, and we'll stick with the balanced setting for the EQ by default. This is a very reasonable set of quick actions with the programmable button. That doesn't mean I wouldn't like to see more. I don't know, launching an app or whatever the case may be. Ooh, answer and hang up calls with the paddle. That I wouldn't have expected. I would expect that to be a single press on the volume roller. I think there's a little bit more work they have to do here in terms of the programmability of the various buttons. Oh, and it has Find My support. Oh wait, it's just to play a noise. Would have been cool to see like a Google compatible, AirTag equivalent tracker inside them or something like that, but baby steps, I guess. All right, here we go. Let's start with a classic. I don't really know how to describe these other than just kind of mid. What is, how much do they cost? Well, hold on, now let me guess. The design is super cool, so I'm gonna be paying a premium for that. That means they're no less than 200 bucks. 200 bucks.
No one's told me. I've asked like 20 people.
We don't know.
Someone knows.
We now know they cost $300 US.
Man, what is it? It's like they have kind of like a in the bass, but it lacks precision right away I find them kind of fatiguing to listen to. And I've talked about this before, I'm a bit of a Sennheiser Veil boy. I don't love sparkly highs. So here's the frequency response curve for these as tested by DMS. And you're probably gonna notice that it looks a little bit different from the ones that we've shown you in the past. That's because the width of this red range here represents the difference in the experience across a variety of different head shapes. So depending on who you are, you might experience the bass as anywhere from within the desirable range to measurably above the desirable range. But no matter who you are likely to notice a dip in the upper treble just below 10,000 hertz. And depending on who you are, you might notice a pretty unpleasant spike just above 10,000 hertz. In a nutshell, they're not very flat, but that's not the end of the world. Let's come back to their app for a second here, because this might be the saving grace for these headphones. Opening up the EQ, not only do we have the simple EQ where I can go more bass, more treble, more voice, or custom, I can flip into advanced mode where I have a full parametric EQ. What this allows me to do is select more than just, whatever the default frequency points are and turn them up and turn them down, but I can even adjust the width of that adjustment as well as the exact frequency. That is very customizable, and they take it one step further. Once I've set that EQ, it is actually stored on the headphones themselves. So I can take those headphones and pair them to another device, say my computer, which doesn't have the Nothing X app, and continue to take advantage of the tuning that I've done. So with that in mind, DMS, give me your QR code. Good gravy. That's what you had to do to get this thing flat? Labs tune. Okay. Well, let's listen to some tuned tunes, shall we? Really enjoying the bass guitar more. What did you actually change at the bass? Hold on.
Kind of made it less muddy.
Yeah, just demuddified it. Like I can actually hear the bass line instead of just ooh, ooh, ooh. I'm impressed at how much was able to be done with the EQ. That is both the strongest selling point, the reason for these existing at all, and also kind of the most embarrassing thing about the development of it. I mean, they even went to the trouble of working with a third party to tune these things, and then we just have like one guy, with a kind of tacky hoodie that was able to make them sound this much better. But it means the hardware's good. And if you start with good hardware, hey, you can fix it. Was it pretty consistent across our 3 sets of headphones, at least?
Yes, actually.
Okay.
It was within 2 decibels.
Well, that's something too, because that means that they could actually roll out a fix broadly through firmware. Oh, I haven't even tried out the ANC yet. At a reasonable, comfortable listening volume, I already can't hear shit. Can't be bad, basically, from where we're starting. Yeah, I can detect a little bit of pressure, so I'm pretty sure it's on right now. Can you guys do some stuff or something? I can actually feel them throwing things around or whatever it is they're doing in the vibrations in the table, but I'm not able to detect any of it with my ears. Can you take one of those tables and just drag it around on the floor, try and create a consistent noise to it? Okay, hold on, let's play a game. I'm gonna say whether you're dragging the table or not. Go. Okay, that's a really, really loud table drag. Why don't we go with something a little more reasonable? How about, sure, play music in the background. Sure, let's try that. Nothing, is that loud? That's really loud.
Yeah.
Far be it from me to try to, objectively determine the strength of the active noise cancellation or whatever just by sitting here listening to it, but what I can say is that I'd be very unlikely to be bothered by typical ambient noise if I was listening to music on these, and for me, that's pretty much the threshold. I don't even know that a lot of the time, if I was listening to music, I would even bother turning on the ANC. There's one other key point from Nothing. They claim 5 hours of non-ANC playback from just 5 minutes of charging and about 2.5 hours of ANC playback with 5 minutes of charging. That's pretty darn useful if you're the kind of person who forgets to charge your headphones overnight right before you go on a trip and you're gonna be on the plane. This guy. But other than that, it's pretty much gonna come down to price. We have seen rumors that it could be around $300. And with the fixes to the frequency response curve, Actually, it looks very, very compelling at that price, especially with this style. My good Lord, they're cool looking headphones. But if you don't want to put in the work to tune them, or if they start to get up closer to the $400 plus range, they become a little bit harder to recommend. But what I can recommend is subscribing to ShortCircuit.